Hello and welcome to the Food and Beverage Leaders Podcast. I'm Andy Barr, owner of Barr Transportation. We're so glad you joined us today. Now, our mission here is very simple at Barr Transportation. It's to provide you with the most reliable and honest national transportation for your goods, paired with proactive communication throughout the entire life of the load. Now, this podcast is designed exactly for you. It's for sales managers, produce managers, logistics managers, traffic managers, the entire C-suite, anyone else who really wants to perform at the top of their game in this global food and beverage industry. So whether you're big or small, West Coast or East Coast, this podcast is meant for you. Now make sure to stick around at the end of each show and we'll reveal how you can apply to be on the show yourself so you can grow your authority, build partnerships, and help your business boom. Interviews are about 15 to 20 minutes long, and I'll leave you with my favorite quote: preparation plus opportunity equals success. That's it. I'll see you on the inside. Enjoy this episode.
All right, welcome back, everyone. Today is August 31st, 2021, and we have Joe Choquette on with us. Joe, welcome.
Thanks, Andy. I'm really happy to be here, and great pronunciation of a really big word jumble last name of mine. So,
No, absolutely. You know, folks, we have a true food and beverage veteran with us today, okay? He started food and beverage companies. He's been working in the space for over 10 years. He has experience with podcasting. So this conversation, I cannot wait to get going. We're gonna have a lot of fun. So, Joe, thanks again for joining us.
yeah, I look forward to it, Andy.
Absolutely. Okay, so Joe, for listeners that don't know you, don't know your history, if you wouldn't mind, and just like a brief synopsis, like kind of who are you, what's your history? Looks like you are the national account manager for Vistar. Kind of touch on that if you would.
Sure, absolutely. In fact, why don't I start there and then work backwards? It's probably a little bit easier and probably a little bit more digestible for the folks that are listening. So yes, currently I'm a national account manager for Vistar, which is a wholly owned subsidiary of Performance Food Group, which is our parent company. It's a publicly traded company. Stock symbol is PFGC on the NYSE. Great company. It is a food distribution company. In fact, little known fun fact here, Andy, number 2 behind Cisco nationwide. So US Foods is a third.
Oh, wow.
With PFG's recent acquisitions, which we can touch on shortly, we have now catapulted ourselves into the number 2 spot for food service, broadline, and convenience solutions. So my specific position is that I manage large corporate contracts with some of the larger providers in my particular space. And my space of specialty is vending, office coffee service, and military. So in those spaces, I manage contracts for companies like Sodexo, companies with membership groupings, so buying groups like the Randolph Shepherd Act, which is Blind Vending Merchants of America. Also, I handle the contracts for American Food and Vending and the entire military, so Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, and Coast Guard.
Very good. Awesome. Okay. And before you were at Vistar, you were in the gourmet food business.
Correct. So I prior to coming to Vistar and establishing relationships with people in my current position, I was working for a supplier to Vistar. So I was doing both direct sales to companies like, again, like the Air Force and Nexcom, as well as other distributors in the ethosphere, but also supplying Vistar so that they could then turn and sell our product. And the product, I worked for a company called Original Gourmet Foods. As I was mentioning to you in the pre-interview, Andy, this is a site brand. It's not a name brand. But when people see those 2 products that they specialized in, one was a candy item, one was a cookie item, they immediately know that item. So had a phenomenal time working for them. And I came to them after starting, growing, and then being acquired by a large national e-gifting company with a gourmet food company that I started. In fact, I actually started a gourmet popcorn company before that wave crested and crashed. So I was right place, right time, right circumstances. And it really catapulted my love and interest into the food industry. I can't imagine myself leaving this industry and going backwards. I just view every day as one more step forward in my professional progression.
That's great. That's great. No, I mean, just having the breadth of experience is phenomenal to have, as you can speak on different types of not only products but different perspectives of the same industry. So,
oh, for sure. I tell a lot of my supply partners now when they're getting anxious about us moving on an item or carrying a new product innovation that they have to pump the brakes a little bit, allow the progression to happen naturally, because it will. It's just managing expectations. And suppliers, all they want to do is get their product into the largest distribution house in the country, so that way it can touch as many doors as possible for them. And I get that, but I've worked both sides of that desk, so I can see both perspectives now, and I hope that I'm offering a value-added service to my supply partners as well as to my customers on how products move through our system.
absolutely. And as you look at Vistar, a large company and a company that has many brands, right, and many suppliers. So when you look at Vistar, what would you say are the main advantages as you compete in that consumer packaged goods space?
I can be all things to all people, Andy. That's the beautiful thing about distributing 65,000 different SKUs. We have huge contracts with Mondelez, with Mars, with Hershey, with General Mills. You name the major manufacturer, whether it be Coke, Pepsi, Gatorade, in the beverage space, Smart Water. The brand itself is always obtainable for Vistar. So when we are negotiating a large national contract with a customer, we can be that one-stop shop for them, because not only do I have all of the snack items that I mentioned and candy items, but we also have an entire line of refrigerated and frozen opportunities that we can provide to our customers, which is wonderful. It gives you that confidence when you're sitting across the desk from somebody that you can tell them that they can do a vendor consolidation to a single point and still receive everything they want with new products to come.
Wow. That I mean, 65,000 SKUs with all the additional features. Yes, I would say that qualifies as a competitive advantage.
It makes meetings a little bit easier than they have been in the past. I'll tell you that much.
Sounds good. When you look at the space, the consumer packaged goods industry as a space, what's your opinion on what is going on? Is there M&A action? Are people entering the space? Are they leaving the space? What's going on?
I think the overall, if I was to give you a 5-year picture, Andy, I would tell you that over the course of the last 4.5 to 5 years, we've seen more and more boutique and niche items in the better for you space, and in the organic space, basically focusing on the emerging buying clan of Gen Z, and ensuring that you're meeting those consumer needs, requirements, and wants coming in has really allowed a lot of smaller, more niche companies to flourish. However, that being said, over the course of the last 16 to 18 months, I've also seen a huge ebb in that as well. Given the climate that we're in, it's the consumer, at least over the last 12 months, has been progressing closer and closer back toward traditional brands and traditional nostalgia items. However, there's really a huge push for these niche items. It's just they're not as prevalent as they had been, say, 2 years ago.
Definitely. And when you look at the past 18 months with COVID, how's business? How, is it, I'm sure there's some good things, some bad things, some in-betweens,
Sure.
some opportunities, some threats, do a whole SWOT analysis for us.
I have no problem doing that. I mean, COVID is everybody's favorite C word. I will tell you that in the course of the pandemic, from its onset, for major shutdowns in March of 2020 through last week, I'm not breaking any news here, Andy, saying that every industry has felt an impact at different points over the course of this pandemic.
Sure.
Being a distributor, we kind of handle these, or we experience some of these challenges daily from different aspects every day. So whether it's, transportation, logistical support, the suppliers being able to get the product to our DCs in order for us to ferret it out to the individual customers for purchase and delivery. That's been a challenge. There's been a huge challenge in regards to hourly employees. So a lot of our DCs, we have 23 of them across the United States, to include actually 23 plus one, 24 total. And of those, 3 of them are fully automated fulfillment centers, very similar to the idea or the visual you would get when you think of an Amazon fulfillment center, where everything's automated, it's pick, pack, and ship. As well as demand warehouses, we've seen a huge dip in applicants, even though we offer extremely competitive hourly rates in that space. It's difficult to get people to just come for the interview. And case in point, in July of this past year, myself and everybody else that was on the national team were asked to donate a week at one of our fulfillment centers to assist in getting orders out, because they felt like they were starting to fall behind in making sure that we had on-time delivery. So, a group of 25 of us spread ourselves out over 5 weeks, 5 per week, to help that particular DC get caught up, because they had such a labor constriction at that point. That has since, ferreted itself out, so they're all in a better spot now. But it illustrates the point that, labor has been a huge issue for us. And then on top of that, go a little bit further into the production or the ethosphere that is getting products from supplier to customer. Our manufacturing partners, whether it be General Mills, Mondelez, Mars, Nabisco, name them, they've all suffered in one way or another through the pandemic, either through reconfiguring assembly lines or reconfiguring production lines to assist for social distancing. They've all dealt with their, with folks that have come down with COVID, and then what protocols are in place. Certain supply partners have been better at adjusting, others have struggled more.
Definitely.
Specifically, those in the poultry space for us have really struggled. And in the candy space, we've seen it as well. So for instance, a supply partner that was able to, on a daily basis in one of their manufacturing facilities, have 4 lines producing 4 different candy bars at the same time has been reduced to 1 line.
Oh
so
my.
we know now that, I'm just using it as an example, but let's say Mars, they're making Snickers on Monday, they're making M&M peanut on Tuesday, M&M brownie on Wednesday, and regular M&Ms on Thursday, where they were doing all 4 of those on Monday 2 years ago. So it's really fallen on myself and our sales organization to communicate effectively with our customers, to let them understand, to be clear and transparent on issues that we're facing with our supply partners. In fact, we've actually instituted over the course of the pandemic a supplier trouble table, which is a transparent exercise between our supply partners, us as the distributor, and our customers to understand. For instance, we'll take a company that struggled mightily through the pandemic is Advanced Pierre, which is a division of Tyson. They've put allocation into grocery, but not into distribution channels and food service. So that's created a huge gap in sales for them and for us. Their inbound fill rate, Andy, is sub 20.
Oh my gosh.
At PFG and Vistar, we have a industry standard that they are expected to meet of 98.5% inbound fill. So if I order 100 cases, I'm only going to get 20. That's rough. And if you try to jump it up and order 1,000 cases, you're still getting 20 because they're going off of your historic usage. So there's no way to job the system or cheat it out to try to get more product into the system for our specific channel. So that has been a huge challenge for us, but it's really allowed people in my position and lower levels of our sales organization to really engage with the customer, really build those strong trust bonds where they don't roll their eyes when you say, listen, we have an inbound fill rate of 20% from the supplier. We're struggling here. They trust that now. They've seen, they understand that we're not making excuses. We're just providing news, and sometimes it's not the greatest news, but it's news.
Yeah, challenges are obviously challenges and not the most fun to deal with. But like you said, they can lead to deeper relationships with customers because, maybe a customer is only used to pretty honestly, surface level conversations and not really going deep because you haven't had any big problems. Things are going
Sure.
smooth. But then when things do hiccup, then it's like, okay, but then they see how you react. And then it's almost, obviously it's not a good thing the challenge came up, but after it, there's like, okay, now we have a deeper relationship. We know we can rely on each other to communicate and be proactive and not just reactive. And absolutely, I mean, there are some pros out of those challenges. So
I'll explain one of them to you really quick, Andy. And it's when we take a look at the other providers in our specific space, we've gained a lot of market share over the course of the pandemic, mainly because of how we chose to focus on the pandemic. So as soon as it hit, and a vast majority of the industries that we service, because I might specialize in vending, office coffee service, and military, but Vistar as a whole also services corrections, theater, and we have large major contracts with every large brand across the country. Hotel and hospitality, these are industries, airlines that were struck down when the pandemic started. We're talking about losses of 95% of revenue right off the onset. What we decided to do was we took a step back as an executive team and looked at who we felt were really driving our bottom line. And as much as the sales organization does, we figured out real quick that it was our operations folks. It was the folks in the warehouse, our truck drivers, our operations specialists. Those were the folks that we prioritized. And as these companies started shutting down, we actually loaned out our drivers and our selectors and pickers and packers to our supply partners. So they became the temporary workforce so that our supply partners had an opportunity to continue to utilize the logistics channel. Now, granted, they had to deliver to us. However, we loaned them out and kept them employed. So while a lot of truck drivers and folks in the logistics and operations channel through the pandemic lost their jobs, or were furloughed or were basically put out to pasture because there was nothing to do, we actually found work for ours. So when you look at the Logistics Hall of Fame for truck drivers across America, there is a huge swath and representation from Performance Food Group and Vistar specifically in that. And there's a reason for that. We have excellent tenure with our drivers.
Well, the logistics community thanks you because, everyone can talk about issues in the supply chain, right? But there's a difference between talking about it, but then also being proactive in how to solve those supply chain issues. So thank you for that. With Vistar and the future, what is your vision for the next 12 months? Like what do you want your categories to do?
Well, I want what everybody wants, which is a return to whatever normal is. However, what I've seen, at least in the last, we'll call it 8 months since the vaccine has been available, we've seen a rapid return to work. Not necessarily in all sectors of our business, but specifically in the office coffee and the vending sector of our business, which is the largest portion that Vistar services. So when you look at a pie graph, about 49.5% of the revenue generated by Vistar's arm of PFG is generated through those two channels. The rest is driven through retail, specialty retail, mass retail, corrections, theater, and hospitality gaming. So we really have seen a rapid return. Where we're struggling a little bit is maintaining customer expectations, because now that they're open, they want all the products that they need to fulfill their customers' needs. And our supply partners are struggling to fulfill, whether they're citing logistical challenges, production challenges, you name it. There has been where products would take 3 to 5 days for delivery from supplier. We're now looking at 7 to 13 days, specifically in the LTL sector. So what we're trying to do is manage expectations. So what I would foresee in the next 12 to 18 months, specifically in the channels that I manage, is a greater push towards bring that extended timeline of delivery down closer to the pre-pandemic levels, which will then meet the needs of the customers. Because we went from nobody ordering any product and suppliers throwing away aging inventory to now we need all the product that we used to have and we need it yesterday. So
Right.
it's working with everybody to find and strike that balance. In fact, I have a poster on my cork board in front of me while I'm talking to you, and it says, remember, at the end of the day, it's all about balance. So, there's going to be good, there's going to be bad. You just have to find that middle ground where everybody's at least content. So that's what I'd like to see. I'd like to see a return towards normal. Currently, the sectors that I manage are only down about 25% year over year. So I'm excited about that, but it also shows you how that drive to return is putting a lot of strain on the manufacturing and logistical community at this current time.
Definitely. That's a very good recap. And, it's well said. As we kind of close here, Joe, is there maybe any last parting words or any news with Vistar or new products or anything you want to leave our listeners as we wrap up, and maybe a way to connect if they're interested?
Sure, absolutely. First, in regards to new, there's always something new and exciting happening at PFG and Vistar, whether it be bringing in new supply partners in a different niche segment of the business that we weren't necessarily prevalent in prior. Perfect example is kombucha. It's really seeming to catch on coast to coast now versus just the West Coast. So, whether it be unique items like that or product innovation, ones like Mondelez, Mars, and Hershey's, or General Mills, we're at the forefront of that. So our customers know that we're always going to show them that product innovation as soon as it's available. Beyond that, I would say that Vistar is in a very aggressive posture this year and into the future, and even in previous years. Over the course of just the last 3 years, we have acquired E.B. Brown out of the Chicagoland area, which is a convenience distributor. Because we didn't feel like we had a strong enough toehold in convenience solutions. So we purchased a distributor in that space, and they're an independently operating sister company of PFG. Most recently in March of this year, it was announced that we had purchased Core-Mark, which is another larger distributor in the Northeast corridor and nationally. But we purchased them because we wanted to expand our availability for products in quicker turn times to our customers. That being said, the integration of Core-Mark into the PFG family should transpire over the course of the next 12 to 14 months, but they are still currently operating as a separate entity. However, they are owned by PFG, which is our parent company. So those are some of the advances. We've extended our reach, extended our market space. I can speak specifically to the United States military channel, where we've made tremendous strides over the course of the pandemic in both appropriated and non-appropriated fund spend, and have really expanded our business both with the VA as well as the 4 major branches of the DoD military. So basically Army, Air Force, Navy, and Marine Corps. And then under the Department of Homeland Security, Coast Guard is also in there as well.
Joe, you are a busy man, my friend.
We have a lot to do.
Well, thanks for being on, Joe. Sincerely appreciate your time. Stay safe, and hope to catch you on an episode coming up in the future.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you for listening to the Food and Beverage Leaders Podcast. I'm Andy Barr with Barr Transportation. Now, if you are a successful leader in the food and beverage space, believe in your company, and want to share your story, really look no further. All you have to do is go to bartrans.com/podcast/apply to apply to be on the show. Lastly, if you enjoyed listening to our show, please consider sharing the link or a screenshot on your social media accounts. We want to help as many people as possible who truly believe education and discussion is where it all starts. Of course, if you know someone that would be a great guest, connect us, and we'll explore to see if it's a good fit. Again, thank you for listening to the Food and Beverage Leaders Podcast. And as always, we'll leave you with our favorite quote: preparation plus opportunity equals success. Now go crush life, and we'll see you again soon.